20 odd years ago, I lay in bed at an old mansion converted into a hotel. I was the caretaker and the only person in the building. I stayed in the old servants' annex, which was down a long, dimly lit corridor. As I lay half asleep, I heard deliberate, evenly paced footsteps walking towards my room at the bottom of the corridor. It was strange because instead of feeling frightened or alarmed, I just lay there and calmly listened to the footsteps grow louder with each step. My heart didn't skip a beat when I heard the handle turn on my door, even when it opened after I felt sure I had locked it. The door slowly creaked open, and still I lay there, not feeling any sense of curiosity at who just entered my room. I just blankly stared at the ceiling as if in a lucid dream. The man made his way to my bedside with the same evenly paced, steady gait. It's really strange as I had a conversation with this entity, but I only remember it feeling like lying on a psychiatrist's chair as if under some hypnosis. I have no recollection of the subject matter at all. Our talk reached its natural conclusion, all the while I didn't once look in his direction. Not out of fear, but rather I didn't have a notion to move an inch. At this point, I felt a foreboding dread as if somehow I had snapped out of a trance, but still I didn't move. I felt his presence rise and move toward my face. It felt like he wanted to kiss me goodbye. I closed my eyes as I felt a weight pushed upon my lips. It wasn't sexual. In fact, it felt slightly aggressive as the pressure started to push my head back into my pillow. I was now starting to feel a bit panicked as my neck started to stiffen in an attempt to resist the increasing weight pushing down on my face. Just at the point I thought my neck would surely snap, it stopped and I was released. I laid there for I don't know how long, but when I finally moved to look around my room, there was no one there. When I was pregnant with my oldest daughter, Mike and I bought a house in the Catskill Mountains of upstate New York, in the middle of nowhere. We drove down winding roads for 40 minutes just to go grocery shopping, and most of our neighbors were only around in the summer or on holidays. It was a nice little house next to the creek, and in the kitchen mounted on the wall was an old-fashioned dial phone with a coiled cord. When we first moved in, I picked up the receiver and heard a quiet conversation between two women about hair dye. I didn't want to eavesdrop, so I said, "Hello? Who is this?" The lady stopped talking, and one said, "Did you hear that?" I responded, "Yes, is someone there? Hi, can you hear me?" Then it was silent, no voices, just a faint dial tone. I quickly decided this old phone was somehow hooked up to an old-fashioned party line. After that, we used the phone very little, preferring our cordless phone hooked up in the other room. The handful of times I did use it, I could hear whispered voices in the background, always assuring the other person that the line sometimes picked up other calls. A year and a half passed, and we mostly forgot the phone was even there. Then, in September of 1999, Hurricane Floyd passed through our area, leaving us without power and the road with large impassable trees blocking the way. Fortunately, we were already prepared. We had stored food and clean water in a paranoid frenzy for Y2K, and we desperately needed it all. We bathed in the creek, painted in the day, and played board games by candlelight while waiting for our power to be restored. After a week, the road was clear, but still no power, and it was getting tedious for Mike and me, though 1-year-old Chloe was loving it. I lamented that we couldn't call my sister as the cordless phone didn't work without electricity when we heard an unfamiliar ring. It was the wall phone in the kitchen. I raced to it and I heard the faint voice of my sister. She was just checking in on us and invited us up to her place until our power came on. So off we went for 5 days, and when we returned, everything was back to normal, and I was so glad we had a hardwired phone that didn't rely on electricity. A couple of years passed, and the phone was mostly ignored, except by 3-year-old Chloe, who thought it would look better covered in sparkly stickers. The power went out at least once or twice a summer, usually just for a few hours. During one of these outages, Mike decided to try the phone in the kitchen to make his call, but it was dead. Concerned, he drove up the road to the local country store and called AT&T service line. I believe it went something like this. Hello? Yes, my phone has stopped working. Can I have your account number? Yes, it's such and such. I don't see anything wrong here. Well, we don't have any power right now. Well, that would be the problem. No, but we have an old-fashioned dial phone hooked up in the kitchen. It should still work. I'm sorry, but according to our records, you have no phone in the kitchen. Yes, we do. We've used it. No, you don't. If you do, it's not connected through us. Oh, okay. After this, Mike came home, walked into the kitchen, and pulled the phone off the wall. The only wire on it was about 3 inches long and attached to nothing. It was never hooked up. So this happened a few years ago when I was about 23 or so. A small group of my friends were all interested in the paranormal, and they often went ghost hunting and would often come back with nothing. I, on the other hand, didn't really believe in the paranormal. I thought there was a scientific reason behind it. Now, this isn't the first time I've experienced something paranormal. When I was younger, I used to see a white orb in my room, but that's a story for a different time. So one day, after we were chilling at a local arcade, they wanted to go ghost hunting again, and normally I would pass and go play games at home, but a girl who I had a huge crush on at the time, who we'll call A, said she's down and that she bought a thermal camera for it. So wanting to be around her for more, we set off for the night hunt. We drove for about 15 minutes till we reached our destination and parked in a subway parking lot. There were about 6 to 8 of us. There was myself, A, her best friend at the time, who we'll call C, and the rest I didn't know that well. After we parked, it took us about 5 minutes to reach the local church, and we had to cut through their parking lot to reach a little wooden gate. From there it took us to a neighborhood, and we had to sneak around and avoid cars since it was about 2:45 a.m. and a group of teenagers wearing mostly black wouldn't look too good. Anyway, it took us about 10 minutes to reach the woods where our ghost hunt location is at. So we started walking, and it wasn't too deep into the woods. I could still see some homes and such. We were walking on a dirt path, and all I could think of is how much I hate mosquitoes. The walk was boring, to be honest. Nothing happened out of the ordinary, but everyone else was freaking out and saying that they saw this and that. Once we made it through the woods, it led us to a baseball park on the other side of the neighborhood. We sat down and chatted for a bit, trying to decide what to do. Either go around the woods to get back to our cars, or walk back through the path again, which was shorter. We decided to walk back down the path. On our way back, I was near the front, and I made a decision that might have caused what had happened next. Somewhere near the middle of the trail, I started to welcome the paranormal and push it to do something, or anything. In my head, I was saying something like, "Go on, do something to me. Show me you're here. Use my body, anything." I suddenly started to feel numb and lightheaded. I remember starting to get tunnel vision, like I could see the edge of my vision fading into darkness, and suddenly I woke up to one of the guys there holding my face with his hands, and he's whispering or saying something in a different language to me. Everyone was staring at me and asking me if I'm okay. I said, "Yeah, what happened?" They said I stopped a few times, that I wouldn't respond when they were asking me questions, and overall just acted differently. They also said I would laugh at random times, but I didn't believe them on that one because I tend to be on the quiet side. After that, everyone was saying that we should call it a night, but they wouldn't want me to drive. The next morning when I woke up, I had some scratches on my arm, but I chalked it off as the tree branches. A's friend, C, messaged me on Facebook asking if I was okay, and I said, "Yeah, I'm fine." I asked what happened, and she told me about it. I asked about who was there, and she mentioned a few names, but the only name I could remember was Tim or Timothy. She said there wasn't anyone there with that name. Half an hour passed by, and she messaged me back with the website link. When I clicked on it, it opened up to a missing child's page for a kid named Timothy, an 8-year-old who went missing a year or two before we went there. The boy's last seen location was the town with the woods. I've also had the urge to go back to the woods for 2 weeks.